Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dodson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dodson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garrett Price.
How's it going?
Slithery Price. And we're back talking Dynasty Fantasy Football. This is your running back index show where we're talking the running backs, where the free agents are going, where the rookies could possibly go, who even needs them. If you want to know who the top incoming rookie running backs coming in this class, you got to make sure you check out yesterday's episode or our last episode where we kind of covered all the free agent running backs are coming out and the incoming rookies who Garrett predicts will be day 2 picks or better. So get those names and get that list on there. We're going to go through the NFC North, South, East, and West and see if any of these teams are in the need or want which way they'll go and who is on the roster for the 2025 season. Before that, though, like I said in last week's show, we have a giveaway to do for the month of November. We're just giving away. But not for like just out of our good hearts. We are, we're bribing people. Like, we're out there like, hey, leave us a rating and review on the podcast and or on the app. And if you do, we're gonna pick somebody, give them a free shirt or a hat, whatever they want to get out there. But like, how else are you gonna enter something without like buying a ticket? That's just our cheap way of getting likes on our app and the podcast. But it does help us. So get out there, leave us a rating and review if you like us. If you don't, keep your opinion to yourself. And so far for this week's app, or this is the podcast review. Let me hit the randomize button. And the winner is Aykops, Aykops, left his review on December 2nd. That wasn't even too long ago.
No.
Hit me up on Twitter at DynastyRich or email me rich@dynastynerds.com. We'll get you a shirt. We'll get you a hat, whatever you kind of want to get out there. And then on the podcast, we also have a winner. Let me hit the randomize button on this one. This one came in November 14th. It's Andreas G418. Andreas G418. Those are our winners. Thanks for supporting the podcast. Thanks for leaving a rating and review. Now let's jump into the NFC North, Garrett. Where do we start in the NFC?
Yeah, let's start with the Chicago Bears. And the Bears, they had DeAndre Swift that they signed in the offseason this year. Now, Matt put the note in that they can save $7.5 million by cutting him after 2025. So it looks highly likely that he's still going to be here next season. I mean, he's had a really up and down year.
Yeah, he definitely has. He has $6 million of next year's salary was wrapped into the bonus, so it's fully guaranteed. He's going to be there next year.
Yeah,
for 2025.
So he's had a really up and down year. First 3 games of the season, absolutely brutal. 30 yards, 18 yards, 20 yards. But then he went on a nice little stretch where he's putting up some big points. But then once again, now for the last 3 games, he's been every single game under 3.5 yards a carry and no more than 4. He didn't even touch 40 yards rushing in a game. So he's been pretty rough. It's been an up and down carousel roller coaster type thing.
Pogo stick.
So I don't know about you guys. I wouldn't necessarily say it's likely, but it would not surprise me if the Bears did decide like, hey, we really like this guy. We want to bring him in.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. This is a team I have on the list. I can definitely take a running back in the first 2 days of the draft to get themselves set up for the future. I mean, this is a team that's in the same division as the Detroit Lions. They see how that offense can work, and you can deploy, a Sonic and Knuckles out there and do just fine at the running back position. So getting somebody like a better Roschon Johnson that come in there and complement and DeAndre Swift, a bigger running back, might not be a bad idea to help out their rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. They do have multiple running backs out there. They have a good tight end. Maybe like a third round pick somewhere on there that gets you excited that can actually compete with DeAndre Swift and end up maybe like pulling like a Bucky Irvin or something along those lines where you wouldn't be surprised by midseason, like he's seeing 60-65% of the touches and they're using DeAndre Swift on third downs.
No doubt about it, man. Swift, he's good when almost when he doesn't have to handle the whole workload, but when he's used, get him out in space, get him in the passing game, get him involved in those kind of things, and I think you get the most out of DeAndre Swift when you want to run him all the time, which they did for a little stretch. He can do it. He's shown he can do it, but he breaks down. He breaks down pretty quick. That seems like it's been his MO ever since he came into the NFL. He just kind of he can't handle the rigors of that.
Wow, DeAndre Swift made Matt so mad he pulled abracadabra on us.
Disappeared.
What happens when you do remote, man? People could spontaneously combust. So peace out, Matt O'Hara. But yeah, I get that too. Yeah, the pogo stick of DeAndre Swift. With Matt's gone, it's not a bad time to move over to the Detroit Lions because this is a team. If there's any team in the NFL that is not drafted, like who would be the ranked number one, not drafted a running back, it is 100% the Detroit Lions. They just extended David Montgomery, and obviously Jahmyr Gibbs he's okay.
He's pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. I don't see a scenario where they draft anybody unless it's a 6th round guy just to have a little more depth, but they're not drafting anyone of consequence.
I have a scenario where it's definitely a possibility. Like David Montgomery and like Jahmyr Gibbs like go to like the Vatican on vacation this offseason, and they just like get pronounced saints or Cardinals or they join the Brotherhood, and then they desperately need running backs right away. That's a possibility.
Yeah. So
that's a better possibility than just drafting a running back without cause. That's
both get abducted by aliens when they're hanging out this offseason, working out, and just UFO comes by, just whoop, sucks them up.
Better possibility. Yeah. Better possibility that my wife comes down here and says, "Hey, you want this sushi?"
All right, let's move on to the Packers then. Green Bay, another team that I'd be very surprised if they drafted somebody. They already took Marshawn Lloyd last year. Josh Jacobs has been phenomenal the second half of the season. Only one game since week 7. Only one game where he hasn't had 20-plus fantasy points. So he's been a monster. He's not an unrestricted free agent until 28. So, yeah.
They got Marshawn Lloyd there. At 24, I just told Matt the other side. He just needs a case of never mind.
Yeah. So this is another one that's not going anywhere. But Minnesota, this would be like everybody talks about the Dallas Cowboys. And obviously, I don't think this one will happen because they're picking too late in the draft. But if I could pick a dream scenario for Ashton Genty, I would love Ashton Genty to go to the Minnesota Vikings. I think
a thing of beauty.
Oh my goodness. In that Kevin O'Connell scheme that he has up there. Oh, I mean, we saw how good Dalvin Cook looked on this team, and Ashton Genty is a far superior running back. Like, I just think that would be creme de la creme. Like, that would be the pinnacle.
Yeah, this is a prime spot where if one of these rookie running backs, one of the guys you mentioned yesterday, one of those 12, 11 guys, they end up on here in a day two of the draft, they immediately are just skyrocketing to the top of rookie boards. This is going to be the situation where we kind of see like, I just don't love Cam Ward or Shurder Sanders in Superflex, and people just go ahead and reach for the running backs. Like this is what we're talking about. Like with the depth of this class, there's gonna be so much good tape out there, and there's gonna be a team like the Vikings that grabs a guy who is like your 4th guy, who all of a sudden now becomes your maybe 2nd favorite guy. Right? It's not going to be maybe the first guy off the board, but in the right situation. And you said it, Garrett. The Vikings are a perfect situation. You'll have Kevin O'Connell back there, a solid offensive line, rookie quarterback. So we know his best friend's going to be the run game and a running back out there. So, and of course, you have Jordan Addison, TJ Hockenson, and Justin Jefferson to kind of open up that backfield a little bit, just a little bit more for a couple little bit wider running lanes out there. So Vikings are a prime spot for either a free agent or a rookie running back. Because again, free agency is an option when anytime you have a quarterback on a rookie deal,
sure,
you're always at a liberty to go spend money elsewhere.
Matt, any thoughts on the Vikings in a running back
situation? I mean, I didn't catch all of it. Obviously, my computer's dumped there, and I just hopped back on. But they definitely need one. Ty Chandler only being the only guy there, and obviously, they haven't committed to him at all. It seems like he's kind of been backburnered this year. Aaron Jones has really taken over, but Aaron Jones, being a free agent and everything, I would expect them to go out and draft at least a guy and possibly be one of these teams that also dips into free agency. Not for a high-end guy, I wouldn't think, unless they miss out on somebody in the draft and there's somebody still good remaining in free agency. But, this feels like a team that's ripe to get a guy, you know what I mean? Like a very solid.
Yep.
Like an Alexander.
Well, I could see them. I could see them getting. I could see them picking up Alexander Madison, bringing him back to be like their third running back or the backup guy. Split time with Chandler and then whomever they draft pretty high. But definitely need to spice that up a little bit there and juice that up position up.
This could be a spot where I could see like a Javonte Williams ends up.
I could see that too. I was gonna say that I could absolutely see that. Then you take a Dylan Sampson, who's more of a, he's 185, 190 pound type back. That's pretty electric. Like you put those two together and in the O'Connell scheme, that would be pretty nice.
All right, let's move on to the list of people that don't need running backs. Atlanta Falcons with Bijan Robinson, who's only 23 years old. Tyler Algier, he'll be 25 years old and not a restricted free agent until 2026. And they also have Chase McClellan, who they just got out of Alabama out there. So Atlanta Falcons, not a very likely spot for a running back to sign in free agency or get drafted.
Oh, I think we lost Matt again.
Another time where we're just... So
see you later, Matt.
Matt got smacked back to yesterday. You got anything on Atlanta, Garrett, or does that pretty much sum it up?
I would be shocked if they drafted somebody. They do not need a running back at all. Once again, they could take one in the 6th round just for depth purposes, but they're not taking anybody of consequence. I would be greatly shocked.
Yeah, next team on the list is kind of an interesting one now.
So weird
Carolina
one.
Panthers, right? They just took Jonathan Brooks as the first running back in this past draft, but with this new ACL tear, the odds of Jonathan Brooks being available in 2025 are slim to none at this point. Like he's expected to miss the entire 25 season. That leaves their newly extended 26-year-old to be Chuba Hubbard at running back. But this is a team that's going to need another running back for 2025. So do they draft one or do they sign one of these guys? Like, is this a spot for like Alexander Madison, Rico Dowdle, where they get like a 2-year deal, but it ends up, it's really just a 1-year deal, which is going to help spell a guy like Chuba Hubbard.
I think this would be a funny place to have Aaron Jones end up going because Jared and I were talking about comps when Jonathan Brooks came out. We were like, he's kind of like an Aaron Jones. So I could see Aaron Jones doing, an old man version of what they wanted Jonathan Brooks to be doing there in Carolina. So wouldn't surprise me at all if somebody like that just kind of finished out his career, got a nice little check and kind of closed it out.
That makes sense to me. That's actually a good spot. Next on the list is New Orleans Saints. He's 30 years old, won't be an unrestricted free agent until 2027. They can't cut him and save money against the cap until after 2025. And it's only $3 million unless they split it over 3 years with a post June 1st designation. They had Jamal Williams, another 30-year-old running back to be. He won't be an unrestricted free agent until 2026. They can save $2.3 million by cutting him after this year, though. So that's a very highly likely add outcome. Definitely with Kendre Miller, who is a rookie running back. Kendre Miller just came in, was used. New interim head coach Rizzi said he wanted to use Miller, and he was correct in that assessment where he got the goal line carries there and got a little bit more totes that you might have expected coming off the injured reserve. So Saints, again, they just paid Kamara. They got Kendre Miller. They've got no money. They're definitely not signing a running back. Maybe they draft one.
I would think so.
This feels like a team that's going to be drafting a guy late to fill in because
real late though.
They're stuck with Kamara. They're stuck with Kamara next year, and it seems like even the year after that. Most ridiculous contracts I think I've ever seen for a team that's just getting ready to fall apart. To sign that guy to an extension was just silly. So now they're stuck with it. I mean, he's still a good player, and we've seen, like you said on the last show, Rich, we've seen 30-year-old running backs do well, 31-year-old running backs. I mean, maybe this one's going to work out and they're going to get to the end of this kind of contract. I don't know. They can't save money against the cap until after 2025, and that's still only $3 million when they cut him. So unless they do like a post June 1st, and then they could save a little bit more. But that's just kind of ridiculous, the Kamara situation. So whomever they're going to get. It's going to be cheap, whether it's a late round draft pick or a super cheap running back off the streets.
Next team on the list, again, don't expect the draft to running back, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got Bucky Irvin there, who's had a fantastic rookie year. They got Rashad Wright, who will be 26. He's not an unrestricted free agent until 2026, and they also have Sean Tucker, who's only 23 as well. So this running back room is pretty set there in Tampa Bay. Yeah. So let's move on to the East, NFL, NFC East. We start off with the Dallas Cowboys. This is the team that everybody's talking about. Ashton Jeanty goes to. They only have Deuce Vaughn under contract next year. He's 23. He's a smaller pass catching running back. So this team is 100% adding a running back to this roster, whether it be free agency or the NFL draft.
I mean, no doubt about it. They need to do some work up front as well. I feel like that offensive line's been kind of getting old and beat up over the last few years. So, whoever they get there, it's great, because they need a running back really bad. But in order for that person to be successful, they're going to have to really clean up that offensive line and get some better pieces in there. So, it might not – it used to be the best landing spot because the offensive line was amazing. And I'm not sure it's the best landing spot anymore.
Yeah, and who knows how much money they're going to want to, spend on a running back after these huge contracts to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. There's just not going to be that kind of money. And so I do think they draft somebody. Could it be Ashton Jeanty? I think this is one of the most obvious possible landing spots for him. And, I watched him a lot today. The Boise State offensive line is just okay. They're not amazing. So Jeanty could make it work regardless of the situation. But all that being said, if it's not him, I would be very, very surprised if they did not take one on the first 2 days. Like, it would be one of the biggest surprise. I mean, but they did it last year. They did the exact same thing last year. So who knows what they're doing? One moment it seems like they love running backs, and the next moment it seems like they hate them. So you never know what's going on in Jerryland. But most of the guys here are good running backs that I think could still thrive on this team. But we'll see what happens.
All right, next on the list is the New York Giants. They have Tyrone Tracy, who's looking really good so far out of Purdue, 25 years old. He's a rookie. They just signed Devin Singletary, who will be 27. He's on an unrestricted free agent until 2027. And they have Eric Gray, who also in 27 be an unrestricted free agent. He'll be 25 years old. This is a team that could obviously draft a running back at some point, but not one that I would expect in the first 2 days.
This is arguably the most tricky one for me to figure out because I love Tyrone Tracy. I have him ranked super high. Mm-hmm. We talked about him a lot in the offseason. I have a good amount of shares. Like I'm all in on Tyrone Tracy. And he's played really well. But they don't have anything invested in him really. And this is another team that seems highly likely to have a new head coach next year. So that always muddies the waters whenever there's a new head coach in town. So that's one of the ones where I'm in on him because I am a fan of his. But if you were to tell me like, hey, I don't want to risk it on Tyrone Tracy, I could see them taking a running back somewhere or signing somebody or whatever. Like, I get it.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. I'm glad you brought it up because you like Tyrone Tracy. You guys have been on Tyrone Tracy longer than me. So for one of you guys to bring that up, I think kind of reaffirms how I feel then as well. Because, he's a 25-year-old or he's 24-year-old this year, rookie. That's looked good, but I just feel like you can do better. And that's a new coach might think that as well. And that's what I'm afraid of. Even though he's good, he's shown some things. If those things aren't what the new coach is looking for in a running back, then he could be gone. And same with Singletary. He's signed through 2027. They can get out from underneath that really at the end of this year and at least be neutral against the cap. I mean, they'd save like $250,000 or something like that. So if the new coach doesn't like doesn't like Devin Singletary, he could be gone as well. This could be a very different room next year, depending on who the coaching staff is.
Still like Tyrone Tracy, still think he'll be the starting running back in 2025. Next on the list is the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, nothing to see here. They got Saquon, just signed him big money. Yeah. He's not a free agent until 2027. They got Will Shipley. Whoever they do get will be somebody insignificant for your dynasty roster. He won't hold any value unless Saquon got hurt. So anybody want to say anything about Philly, or we're good to go to move on?
We're good.
The only thing I will say is I wouldn't rule out maybe one of these free agents backing up Saquon, potentially where I don't know where they're at on the cap, but I wouldn't rule it out necessarily, which would kill them for fantasy because they're not doing anything. But just with how much they rely on the running game, they might want to have like a solid backup.
Yeah, Philadelphia's like middle of the road next year, about 18th.
Okay.
Fewest, or the smallest amount, but 34 million. They got plenty of money to kind of play with, projected for next year.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was like end of the world, like somehow like Aaron Jones like wasn't getting a lot of offer and he just signed a real cheap and it's like, hey, me and Saquon together, we're gonna go win a championship. Some along those lines. So next on the list is the Washington Commanders. They got Brian Robinson, who will be 26 years old. He's not a free agent till 2026. And they got Austin Eckler, who won't be an unrestricted free agent till 2026. He's going to be 30 next year, but they can save $3.6 million by cutting him after this season. So the Commanders definitely on the list of somebody who could add a running back this offseason, 100%.
No doubt about it. Brian Robinson, I think, has proven to be more in the NFL than I thought he could be. And he's a nice piece. He catches passes decently well out of the backfield as well. I mean, I don't know that you want to use him in that role specifically, but I think he can do that. But Austin Eckler, I think when he's healthy, he's shown that he can still be a producer and do some things. He just seems to be getting to that point in his career where being healthy is the hard part. Getting him out there is the hard part. So, I would be very shocked if they didn't go out and get somebody. I don't know what that somebody's going to be. That all depends on kind of how they view Brian Robinson long term.
Sure.
If Robinson, they're like, you know what, let's just use him for the next year or so, and then we need to find his replacement kind of now. It might be a bigger guy and that can do more things, and kind of shunt Robinson to the side. But if they like him and they see him as a feature guy, that you could just see them kind of bringing in a complement, an Austin Eckler type that's more pass catch happy or heavy, I suppose is a better term for that. So I don't know. Definitely going to be somebody. Just don't know who it's going to be kind of yet.
He would. This team would be another one that I think could be a sneaky spot potentially for an Ashton Genty, depending on how these next few weeks go. Right now on Tankathon, they have them as the 20th pick, but we'll see how these last few division games go and see where they end up. But it wouldn't surprise me if they're like, hey, we want our guy and go get him. If not, if they just more or less want to replace Austin Eckler, a third rounder in Dylan Sampson, there's a lot of shades of Austin Eckler in Dylan Sampson's game. So I could see something like that being a nice little marriage as well.
All right, now let's move on to the NFC West. I just realized that we're going to have a very short show today. As we enter the NFC West, there is not a single team. There's actually one team in this division that could possibly add a running back in the draft that's going to make you excited, because we're going to start off with our Arizona Cardinals. They're not that team. They have James Conner, who's going to be 30 next year, but they just signed him to an extension. Yes, they could save $8 million by cutting him after 2025, but with the addition of Trey Benson last year, who's only going to be 23, they got Amari DeMarcado, they got DJ Dallas. This is a team that's not investing in a running back this year when they just did that a month ago. You have the LA Rams, who's got Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, who they just invested in as well, 25 and 24-year-old running back backed up by Cody Schrader. They will not be investing in a running back this year. You got the Seattle Seahawks, who have Kenneth Walker, who they took in the second round, who's only going to be 24. You got Zach Charbonnet, who they took in the second round, who will only be 24, backed up by Kenny McIntosh. This is a team, that will not draft a running back. Now, could it be the Detroit Lions like that one time where they drafted like 4 wide receivers 4 years straight? Maybe, probably not. So it leaves the question to one team that I've not mentioned yet, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. They have Christian McCaffrey, All-Pro running back, going to be 29 years, but coming off a really rough year. He won't be an unrestricted free agent until 2028. They can save $1.2 million by cutting him after 2025. So not a big savings there. They also have Isaac Garendo there, who will be 25 years old next year, won't be a free agent until 2028. And obviously they signed Izzy Abakanda. Christian McCaffrey said, hey, man, sometimes you just have really rough years and there's nothing you can do about them when it comes to injuries. I plan on using this, bouncing back stronger. We know a Kyle Shanahan coached team with Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle will be a Super Bowl contender to start the season. Can we see them adding to Christian McCaffrey to hedge their bets at the running back position this offseason?
I mean, I think, this feels like a team that would, they've seen Garendo and he's looked good in that system. I feel like Jordan Mason, is obviously he's not on this list, so he must be a free agent. I would think that they would try to bring him back. And judging by the fact that, we've talked a lot of spots here and, you mentioned last show that there was, 13 possible spots that you saw as running back, or that might have been before the show. I don't remember.
Last show,
but you mentioned it. Yeah, that it was last show that, that there was 13 spots that you could see running backs going to. There's going to be some free agent type of scenarios, some guys that are free agents. So a guy like Jordan Mason might not have a lot of suitors out there because I think there's better guys out there for other teams. But I think Jordan Mason specifically fits San Francisco's offense really well. And I think for him, that might be his best landing spot, just staying there and hoping that maybe he gets a better opportunity kind of as Christian McCaffrey fades. He can kind of be a guy that takes on a role and maybe gets a contract somewhere or just gets all he can out of the NFL, basically. So I'm not sure that they're a team that would do it. Obviously, if they do go out and draft a guy, I'm interested right away. But I'm not really.
They haven't shown to be great at drafting the position, though. I think of Trey Sermon, Tyrion Davis-Price. Like, seems like they've tried a couple third round type guys, and they just they don't seem to get it well. They don't do well there.
It's bad when the dynasty guys are like, oh, I don't care that San Fran took him in the third round. I don't like that guy. Yeah. we still don't draft him. That's when you know it's bad. So look, this offseason, we're really paying attention to the Cowboys, the Vikings, the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Steelers, and the Browns. Those are the teams that we look at right now prior to free agency, and when some of those guys sign in, is being really high-end opportunities for a lot of touches for these running backs going into the offseason.
Let me ask real quick. If you guys had to quickly rank, like, which of those scenarios are you think the most enticing? Like, top 3 or 4 of them where you would be like, that's the landing spot. And maybe it might be a little bit running back dependent. Like, I like this guy here more than this guy or whatever. But, like, which ones of those are the creme de la creme, the top spots? Because for me, I think like Minnesota is probably the one that I'm the most excited about, and I think would be an amazing landing spot for whoever's there. Chargers is probably right there as well.
Agreed.
Very, very close between those two. Could be talked into either one at the top. So I think those two are probably the most appealing to me. Third, whether they bring back Najee or not, I think Pittsburgh would probably be third for me. I think that would probably be my top 3. What do you guys think?
The Chiefs would be number 1 for me.
Okay.
That's a team that I expect to go after running back. So the Chiefs would be the number 1 for me. The Chargers would be number 2. The Vikings would be number 3. Then the Steelers 4.
I think
in that order.
The reason I didn't say the Chiefs is because I think Isaiah Pacheco is still annoying for whoever would go there. So that's the only reason I didn't say them in the top 3.
I agree that I don't think I have the Chiefs in the top in my top 3 or 4 teams for that reason. I think the Denver Broncos are a team that I'm really interested to see Sean Payton finally get his guy and kind of use that. So he's definitely in my top 3, along with the 2 that you said. What were the first 2 that you said there?
Chargers and the Vikings.
Yeah, Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, and obviously the Dallas Cowboys, just because it's such a wide open depth chart,
Sure.
that whomever lands there. I know it's not
Rico's
the
looked
greatest
good.
situation. Exactly. So I think those are my top 4. But I could be talked into a couple of other ones as well. So there's a lot of great opportunities, and obviously, which is nice because it matches up with the draft class that we have right now. So the draft class is strong at the running back position. There seems to be some openings. There are going to be some devastating draft day things that happen. They happen all the time, where somebody that we love goes to like just the worst situation.
100% will happen
because it turns out that they don't care about fantasy football in the NFL. They just want to win football games,
players.
And sometimes this player fits my system. Yeah, exactly. So
all of a sudden Tampa Bay drafts somebody, and you're like, "What the heck? Like, why did you do that?"
Mm-hmm. But the truth is, after this NFL draft and free agency, the NFL dynasty landscape is going to change. The rankings going to, we're going to look at this picture a lot differently. And, one of the most attractive assets in dynasty fantasy football is the rookie contract running back, right? With high draft pedigree. If you get a first round, that's gold, because you feel like, in the eyes of how it's all supposed to play out, if the tape, agrees with you, Bijan falls in this category very easily. Is you're guaranteed 5 years, for the pro. When you're right, okay, that's 5 years of young, talented running back play. And you're right, Garrett, that does kind of equal out to, like, going back to yesterday's show, like, would you rather have Joe Burrow or Ashton Genty? Like you said, who'd you rather have, Bijan or Joe Burrow? And I was like, Joe Burrow. And then, the more I sit here, after hours later, as you began the show, how I'm going to end the show is saying, the more I thought about it, it's like, I almost would just rather have Bijan, because that pool right now of young, super talented running backs is very small.
It is.
Once you start, the other good guys are really good at the top. When you talk about Joe Mixon, Saquon, like when they're at 28 or older, so that shelf life does look a little bit more diminished. But we are going to get an influx here of young talent, so it's going to be exciting. Where this offseason is just upon a lot of us right now. But going to be here for everybody here soon as we get into our offseason content. It's going to be really fun to break down these rookie running backs, give you what they're good at, what they're bad at, then see it all play out into the NFL draft, see these combines, and kind of see the process change out. Because it's always funny, I say, when you have that window in Dynasty, like, how you have to go after it so aggressively, because even just in that small window, when you say hashtag 2 to 3 year window, and you go back and look at your Dynasty League 3 years ago, it looks drastically different than it does today. And we've had such an influx from this past rookie draft class. This has been a phenomenal rookie year for a lot of talented players have come into the league and over the last couple of years. So here's another class that's going to have a really strong tight end group, a really strong running back class to change the landscape once again. I am very, very excited to start diving into this process.
I mean, no doubt about it. I can't wait to get into these prospects as well. And obviously, this is just kind of like the first little teaser, right? I mean, we're talking guys, we're introducing names, schools, kind of what they're good at, all that kind of stuff now. And obviously in the months to come, this is just going to get more in depth, and I can't wait. You know what I mean? Like this is where I can start getting I start getting like energy again. You know what I mean? Like the season like beats me down. Like, you're watching so much football, we're talking so much football. Like, it starts to grind me down a bit, and now this is starting to juice me up a little bit. So this feels good. I can't wait to get back into these rookies, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
Adios.
Adios.
Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds has an incredible new offer from Underdog Fantasy for new customers. When you sign up as a new customer, you'll get a chance at their new customer free pick. But that's not all. Underdog is also offering incredible deposit bonuses. Use the promo code NERDS when you first sign up, and Underdog will give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash with your first deposit. That's right, $1,000 to kickstart your fantasy football journey. Don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the Underdog app. Sign up today with promo code NERDS and start your journey to fantasy football glory today. Must be 18, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. And in Tennessee, call 1-800-889-9789.